True or false? The 8 largest islands of Hawaii were all formed by volcanic action. If you said true, good for you. This is Chuck Davis, and I'm the host of a quiz show called Conquest.
And David, how are things back in dry Studio 1?
What's wrong with Studio 2, Jack? I guess I get it now. It's dry and it's wet. Gin in the bathtub. Right. A little slow in the uptake. Okay, let's go, though, to a few guys. 4 people, in fact. And 1 makes 5. Chuck Davis, with 4 very smart people from Vancouver, the longest introduction in the world to Conquest.
Thank you, David, and hello again.
Hello, David. Hello, darling. Hi, Dave.
Hello, David. Wonderful to be here. Wonderful to be anywhere.
Especially with you, darling. Especially with you.
That's right. We've been doing this show for several weeks now, and nobody except me has ever said hello to David Coe.
What does he look like? Sort of just about 6'3" and as cute as
A bronze, your typical bronze god. Yeah.
Sort of an Adonis right there in Toronto.
With a corona of glowing hair with little CBC signals all artfully knitted into his head.
Beautiful teeth. Beautiful teeth.
David is sitting back in Toronto and saying, how did they know? Anyway, here we go with part 2 of England. In Egremont panel, along the Cumbrian coast, the World Gurning Championship is a couple of months away. What is gurning? Oh, come on. I'm surprised. You don't know what gurning is?
Give us a little clue.
All right, I'll gurn. Peggy.
Boy, is that ugly. What? Okay. Gurning is making a really hideous face.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. Actually, etymologically, it's interesting, too. Bill, you'll be interested to know this. It comes
Probably not.
comes from the same root as the word grin.
My goodness.
Yes, astonishing.
Land sakes alive.
Anyway, Peggy Merlin gets that, and that puts her first on the scoreboard in this edition of Conquest. Hello, I'm Chuck Davis, and this is Conquest, the international quiz. It's a simple game, but the prizes are huge. Entire countries.
I'm waiting for Chuck someday to say it's a simple game, and so are the panelists.
Here's how we play. In the studio is a panel of 4 people. I'll ask them a series of questions about England. The player with the highest score at the end of the allotted time wins England to take home and put on the shelf. Now, let's meet our gurning players.
That's my natural face. I'm J.J. McCall, and I'm a writer and broadcaster.
I'm James Barber, and I am a closet gurner.
I'm Peggy Merlin.
I'm Bill Casselman. And Chuck, if you make noises when you make the face, does that still count as gurning? Like...
I would say so, sure.
Oh.
Anyway, listen closely. Here's your second question. The Beatles, all of whom came from Liverpool, were discovered and developed by a Liverpool record store proprietor. What's his name?
Brian Epstein.
That's right.
He's now departed this vale of tears.
He has. He wrote not a biography, which is actually surprisingly good. It's called A Cellar Full of Noise. This song I'm going to play for you now is not by the Beatles. Can you tell me which group it is?
There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway to heaven.
Oh, come on, panel. One of the big rock hits of all time.
The Bee Gees?
No. The answer is Led Zeppelin. In the village of Surrey in the Southern Lakes District of England is a pleasant spot called Hilltop Farm. A famous lady lived here in the early years of this century, and this is where she observed the little animals that she made famous. Bill.
Beatrix Potter.
That's right. Peter Rabbit, Jemima Puddle Duck.
I have a friend who remembers being chased from her garden as a small boy.
Oh, I love that.
You mean she turned
She
up?
hated children. I love
The
it.
original Farmer McGregor.
She's a meanie, eh? What are Banbury cakes?
Banbury cake is
You're supposed to buzz,
I'm supposed
James,
to buzz,
but...
right. Well, they can't see the buzzer. A Banbury cake is the thing that's got currants in it, and we used to call them dead fly cakes. I love it. They're real children.
Yes, like a raisin scone.
Can anyone complete this quatrain? Pastry rolled out like a plate, piled with turmut, tates and mate, doubled up and baked like fate. That's
something you'll be sorry you ate.
No, the answer is Cornish pasty. In the southeast of England, between Oxford and Cambridge, is Bedford. A very famous book was written here in 1675. It's a prose allegory telling of the adventures...
Prose allegory, it must be Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress.
That's right. I was going to say telling of the adventures of Christian as he makes his long and tortuous way to the gate of heaven. He was born in Luton, Bedfordshire, April 5, 1920. 2 days before his 36th birthday, CBC Television presented a one-hour drama by this man titled Flight into Danger. It was a smash hit.
Arthur Haley.
Yes.
And he then went on to make zillions of dollars writing big, thick novels.
That's right.
Of a popular nature.
Yes. Bill Casselman gets that. Who, panel, is Leslie Hornby? Bill.
Twiggy.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever happened to Twiggy?
I think she filled out and lost her career.
She's just started to do a series in the United States. I read about it the other day.
Who is Colley Cibber? Bill.
Colley Cibber was a really, really, really rotten poet who wangled cheap influences at court to get his books published, and he was one of the main targets of John Dryden in the Dunciad, for example. Dryden wrote this long poem, and Colley Cibber's name constantly comes up because he was so rotten. I can't quote any of his verse, but...
If this is right,
How do you
I'm
know
simply
this?
avalanched by this erudition.
It's not erudition. If you read Dryden, the Dunciad, you have to come across Colley Cibber.
And God knows everybody has.
God knows.
Well, anybody who has to take a survey course in English Lit has certainly had to plow through some of that.
Colley Cibber was an English dramatist and poet. He was poet laureate for 27 years, and he cheerfully agreed, Bill, that he was one of the worst to ever hold the post.
That's right.
His plays and his autobiography are, however, considered not bad. Can anyone tell me anything about this old English pop song?
Airline ticket to romantic places.
That's it, yeah.
Though my
These
heart
foolish
these
things
foolish things remind me of you.
Yes.
But now, whatever
Now
can
we'll
we tell
cover
about that?
Well, aside from the
Howard.
title, I'll give you a point for the title, Peggy.
I got the title.
You got it after
That's
I
right,
gave it
that's
to
right.
you, love.
That's right, he
No
started actually
cowards.
saying the words. No, it was written by Jack Strachey, and what I was really looking for was that it was played by, very sweet, very sentimental, but also nicely done.
A Brit saxophone?
Yes, Freddie Gardner. Two people are pointing at themselves. I'll give it to both of you. 1 point for James and 1 point for Peggy Merlin. In 1568, a book called Abridgment of the Chronicles of England is published by Richard Grafton, who first records a mnemonic rhyme that is still quoted today. It has to do with the calendar, a mnemonic rhyme. Peggy.
30 days has September, April, June, etc.
30 days hath September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, excepting February alone, and that has 28 days clear and 29 in each leap year. A seed planting drill, invented in the early 18th century by a Berkshire farmer, speeded up planting and lessened seed waste. Here is a clue to his name.
It's too obvious.
Yes.
I don't want to give you the answer. It's just too obvious, isn't it, panel?
Bill?
Oh, no.
George Caterwall.
No, you folks are going to have to brush up on your English rock groups. It's Jethro Tull, and that was the name of the Berkshire farmer, Jethro Tull. That's where the rock
Inventor
group...
of the seed drill.
Yes.
Wonderful.
A seed.
That's why
A
I come
seed
to
drill.
this show.
To learn things like this.
right.
That's right. Here's your last question on Part 2 of England panel. A 1798 play by English playwright Thomas Morton, it was called Speed the Plough, introduced a new phrase into the language. One of the characters says, "Be quiet, will ya? Always dinging Mrs. Blank into my ears. What will Mrs. Blank say? What will Mrs. Blank think? Who's Mrs. Blank?"
Would
Bill?
it be Mrs. Grundy?
It would. Very good. She's still around, healthy, hale.
Good day, sunshine. Good day, sunshine.
That is England Part 2.
Who won?
He asked eagerly, his eyes
Gloatingly.
glinting. Bill Casselman
Oh,
won.
surprise.
Oh, thank
Bill.
you. Thank you. Thank you,
And
Bill.
fun as always. Until next week at the same time, this is Chuck Davis.
With J.J. McCall.
James Barber.
Peggy Merlin.
And Bill Casselman?
Bye-bye.
And bye-bye, JJ, Peggy, James, Bill, and Chuck. And how did that information about the perfect teeth and the bronze Adonis bit get out? I was sure I had it struck from the press release. Anyway, let's have a tune. Harry Nilsson, Schmilson, and let the good times roll. Okay, now let's go to Vancouver, to Chuck Davis, as 2 men and 2 women are at the edge of their seats waiting for that first all-important question on Conquest. Chuck?
Thank you, David. Nice to be here again, and nice to be visiting a place that I have been to a couple of times and really enjoyed, and you'll know where it is right away when you hear this. That music indicates immediately, for anyone who's ever been there, that the place for Conquest tonight is Amsterdam, capital and largest city of the Netherlands, and after Rome, London, and Paris, the most visited city in all of Europe. Here's your first question, panel. How did Amsterdam get its name, J.J. McCall?
After the Amstel River. And I think the man in charge, the Duke or whatever he was, had a dam built around his castle to keep out the water.
Well, I don't know about the connection with the castle, but there was a dam on the Amstel River, Amsterdam, which became Amsterdam, and that's right.
His castle was the old church that's there now.
And that old castle is where the coronations take place. Only the... Oh, I look at your face looking panicked. I'm jumping a question. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
J.J. McCall is first on the scoreboard in another episode of Conquest. Hello, I'm Chuck Davis, and this is the international quiz Conquest. It's a simple game, but the prizes are huge. Whole cities and countries. Here's how we play. There are 4 panelists in the studio. I'll ask them a series of questions about Amsterdam. The player with the highest score at the end of the allotted time wins the city, to do with as he or she pleases. Now, let's meet our players.
I'm J.J. McCall. I'm a writer and broadcaster, freelance, and I'm also freelancing as a porcelain painter.
I'm James Barber, and I got the finest crop of sorrel in the Northern Hemisphere.
I'm Peggy Merlin. Good Havend. I'm really delighted to hear that it's Amsterdam, since I spent the weekend, only last weekend, with a really darling Dutch person.
Sounds nice. I'm Bill Casselman, and I sincerely hope we're going to keep this as clean as possible because Amsterdam is rather a spicy little place. For example, there's a tiny little street beside a quiet canal. You can walk down the street, go into a little shop, and purchase a Gouda cheese wrapped in leather.
Well, Amsterdam is, in fact, known as the sex capital of Europe, but our show today is rather staid, I'm afraid.
Aww.
You've met our players. JJ was first to score. Here's your next question. Amsterdam was the site recently of the introduction of a new European queen. I want her name, Peggy.
Margaret.
No,
Beatrix. That was me, Beatrix.
Yes, JJ gets that. You'll often see heavy beams jutting out from the top gables of some... Peggy.
And they're to help move your furniture into the house.
Yeah.
You have to bring your furniture in the canal and hoist it up and in through the windows because the stairs are so narrow and tiny in these little narrow houses that you can't get the Chesterfield around the corner.
Here's a musical question. There's a collection in Amsterdam that includes this. What is it?
Is it a little music box?
Yes. Yeah, very
Maybe
simple.
that's the answer?
What makes it intriguing is that it's a pocket music box. You can actually carry it around in your pocket.
And has he got a
Like a
little
transistor.
dancer on it in a tutu that goes round and round and round?
That I don't know.
Oh.
The tune was called Schlafe Schlafe. How did the Spanish, centuries ago, contribute unwittingly to... JJ.
They contributed unwittingly to the cultural life of Holland, but Amsterdam particularly, because during the Inquisition and before, so many Jewish people left, they fled, and also liberals fled as well.
Yeah.
In fact, Holland's benign open door kind of policy has contributed enormously to its position in the world. Not only Portuguese and Spanish Jews, but French Huguenots, and there have been a tremendous amount of people fleeing to a more free climate.
That's right. And JJ gets that one. In Amsterdam is a famous tower called the Tower of Tears. On April... JJ.
It's called a Tower of Tears because it's at the point where the sailors' wives would watch their husbands leaving, and it was supposed to be the wives' tears would keep it wet forever.
That's really interesting, JJ. It's too bad it's not the question.
Oh, gee.
On April 4, 1609, a man sailed from that point to an area... JJ?
Was it Cabot?
No. To an area... Bill.
Henry Hudson,
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
who helped to found New Amsterdam, got the river named after him, and then a few years later, the Brits came and grabbed it out of their hands and called it New York City.
So Bill Casselman gets that. What connection could this piece of music have with Amsterdam? You're just guessing, JJ, if you know what...
I would guess that it's played by the Concertgebouw Orchestra.
That's a very good guess. That's the right guess, too. Do you happen to know the name of the piece of music?
The conductor might be Bernard Haitink.
No, it isn't. Oddly enough, because a lot of it is. It's the scherzo from Midsummer Night's Dream, Mendelssohn. But you're right, it's the Concertgebouw Orchestra. JJ gets that. A painting called The Shooting Company of Captain Franz...
Also known to us as The Night Watch.
By?
Rembrandt. I know one little interesting fact about The Night Watch. In 1975, some nut slashed it, and now you have to see it behind glass. But over the last 10 years, the restoration artists have been supporting the back artificially and removing the varnish, and it turns out that when Rembrandt painted it, it was a day scene. It wasn't at night at all, but the varnish darkening over the years made people think it was.
After Rembrandt had died, a new home was found for it, and more than 2 feet were chopped off it so that it would fit into the room that it was going to be housed in.
Both of you have just used up the next 4 questions because all of these things were...
well, then we should get the
point. Little point, Leon.
2 each.
No, afraid not this time. But the last time somebody did answer a question that I wanted, it was Bill, so Bill Casselman gets that one. Born in Amsterdam in November 1632, he worked for a time as a lens grinder, but he's known, Peggy.
As a philosopher, I bet it's Spinoza.
Yeah.
And you know that he died at the age of 45 because of the glass dust in his lungs from
That's
his
right.
days as a lens grinder.
Yeah, his name is most associated with the doctrine of pantheism, and he's the author of, among other things, a short treatise on the correction of the understanding, which I confess I have never read. You go into an Amsterdam bar and ask for a half unhealthia. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Half and half. You have to consume it in a special way. Peggy.
Without putting it down.
Well...
I mean, it has no way to
No,
set the glass
that's
down?
not really true.
No.
It sits on the counter, and you have to take your first sip by bending over, holding your hands behind your back, and sipping it as much as you can out of the glass. Then you can pick the glass up.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
it is potent. There's about 15 different kinds of booze in it.
Okay, Bill Casselman gets that one. She was born in Frankfurt am Main in Germany in 1929, but taken by her family...
Anne Frank.
Yes.
The Diary of Anne Frank.
Very good. Taken by her family at the age of 4 to Amsterdam, and at 263 Prinsengracht in Amsterdam, she and her family lived in hiding from the Nazis from 1942 until they were betrayed in 1944. Have you read it?
Secret
Yeah.
Annex.
Yeah, everybody's read it.
Sure.
The diary was discovered by friends after Anne's death. A Hollywood movie was made on the life of Rembrandt. Who played the painter? JJ.
Charles Lawton.
Yes. Here is a musical question. I want the title of this tune. JJ?
Springtime in Amsterdam.
No.
Springtime in Rotterdam.
Da-da, just me
April in
and...
Paris.
Just me and my cheese?
No, the answer is tulips from Amsterdam.
Oh.
He was a clerk in an Amsterdam warehouse in the mid-17th century, and for the bulk of his life was a janitor in the Delft City Hall. Actually, it was a sinecure. He may not have actually worked there, but we know him as an important scientist. He ground more than 400... Bill.
I probably can't pronounce it properly. Van Leeuwenhoek, the guy who helped to invent the microscope.
Yeah. Well, he didn't help to invent it, but he
The lens.
certainly advanced the science of...
Well, with Chucky, without a lens, we couldn't have a microscope.
Oh, except that there were lenses around before...
But anyways, Van Leeuwenhoek.
Leeuwenhoek, yeah.
Leeuwenhoek?
Yeah, there were lenses around before he came, but he was the one who worked on them.
Perfected them.
Yes, with such delicacy and perfection, in fact, that they could magnify up to nearly 200 times. Van Leeuwenhoek's discovery that fleas have tiny parasites living on them inspired a famous writer, James.
Swift. The elephant and smaller fleas have little fleas upon their backs to bite them. That's the last 3 lines. So you know the beginning of it.
I'm going to give the point to James for knowing what I'm talking about. The Swift quatrain goes like this. So naturalists observe a flea has smaller fleas that on him prey, and these have smaller still to bite 'em, and so proceed ad infinitum. That's right. One of the sights on any canal tour of Amsterdam is a house which is unique in the world. Its dimensions make it so. What is unique about it, Bill?
It's just the narrowest little house that you ever did see, or care to see. And it takes about 4 seconds. You walk by, that's a narrow house, and you've had it. That's it.
You can't lie down in the bedroom. You just can't even stretch out.
That's right. It's the narrowest in the world. I've seen it. It took me longer than 4 seconds, about 6.
You
maybe.
were walking faster.
No, I was in a canal tour.
How wide is it?
It's 1 meter wide. What is the name of this delightful piece of music sung by a Dutch children's choir? Peggy?
It sounds like happy birthday to you, huh?
That's right. I thought I might trick you, but it didn't work.
Trick.
Oh, he's a
Boy, that
tricky
was
devil.
really
But
crafty.
I just thought, well, you did, because it couldn't be so stupidly
Chuck,
simple.
you old-
That was the trick.
Chuck, you old sly boots, you.
You've heard of the rice toffel, an Indonesian dish, James?
Well, yes.
Yes, we have.
Very good.
James Barber.
Very
Another
good.
point.
And so quick, too.
What does it mean? Is that what you want to know?
No, that's too easy. Rice table, we know that.
You've heard of the rice toffel, an Indonesian dish served in many Amsterdam restaurants. One of the dishes served as part of the rice toffel is called ape hair. What is it, JJ? Peggy?
I bet it's shredded coconut.
Yeah.
I bet. What else
How
could be
did
called?
you
I don't know.
know?
I have no idea. It's
That's-
natural knowing.
Very good.
It's sort of fried, and that gives it that
That's it.
browny color to
That's
it.
it.
yeah.
Oh,
And
I
they-
thought it was dyed in human blood.
No, they fry shredded coconut with peanuts.
Bill-
And the ape hair, in other words, has the little sort of grubs in it. I get
Fleas
the same.
in it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's called ape hair.
Yum, yum.
Hey, that's Amsterdam. It's been a rapid little jaunt. Let's find out who won it. It was won by Bill Casselman.
Thank you, friends, for that voluminous applause.
You're so welcome,
I was
Billy.
born, Chuck. The reason I know so much is I was born in Haldimand County in southern Ontario, which is filled with prosperous Dutch farmers.
Ah.
And one of the things I learned as a kid was a great Easter game called eyer kicking. And you know how in Canadian kids you got to go around looking for Easter eggs or
Yeah.
painting them? The Dutch have got a great invention for the kids. On Easter, each kid gets an egg and you just tap it together. And the first, if you can break the other guy's egg and keep your egg whole, you win. And if you do it outside in the lawn, you can go through a couple of dozen of eggs and have an awful lot of fun.
With your competitive spirit and all of our competitive spirits, I can just see the masses of mounds of eggs around you.
I highly recommend it to any parents who don't mind throwing the kids' clothes in the laundry the next day.
Oh, the eggs are raw.
Yeah, they're oh, yeah,
Wouldn't
so-
be any fun if they were
Wouldn't be,
hard-boiled.
Exactly. They break all over you and splat. It's really
Oh,
fun.
it sounds great. That's Amsterdam. And until next week, David, at the same time, this is Chuck Davis.
With J.J. McCall.
Bill Casselman.
James Barber, if you go get a season ticket on the tram, it's the best thing to do.
Peggy Merlin, tot volgende week. That means see you next week.
Now let's go back to Toronto and David Cole.
Okay, thank you, Chuck and company. And now for the people of Amsterdam, here's a tune describing the praises of another famous city. It's dedicated to the people of Amsterdam, to the Dutch, Dutch Schultz, Dutch Mason. Here is John Sebastian, The Loving Spoonful, and Nashville Cats. Nashville Cats, Loving Spoonful. Now, tomorrow night on the show, a reunion, a first, an exclusive, as Sunday Morning would say. We reunite the backbone of Loving Spoonful, Zal Yanowski, who is now a restaurateur in Kingston, Ontario, and John Sebastian will be here in the studio together. That's 23 hours from now, so stay tuned. And that's it for this hour. We'll be back after a 2-minute break with Larry LeBlanc on the music of Paul Anka, John Stark as Stephen Leacock, and Eddie Eastman in concert. I'm David Cole, and you're listening to The Big One, Variety Tonight.